Hello and welcome to the EV Cafe Takeaway, a podcast focused on that zero emission future that we all hope for. And every week I get joined by one of the wonderful team within the EV Cafe itself, and this week is no exception. I've got the lovely Sara Snowman. Hey Saz, how you doing?
Hello, I am without my lightning bolt badge. I feel bereft, but I am very happy.
There it is. I've got lightning bolts enough for us both.
I've got the tattoo still, it's all good.
See, there you go. You trump my flash with your tattoo. There, we're done. But every week we get joined by innovators, pioneers, and collaborators. And this week I'm just so excited. We have got the wonderful Ben Kilbey. Yes. Now, Ben, the Bold and Bald, or Bald and Bold and Bold and Bald Voodoo, the founder thereof, just a pioneer and a collaborator in all things PR. I mean, you know, a communications genius, some might say. But not me. But anyway. No, Ben, welcome to you, my friend.
Thank you for having me, Paul and Sarah. How are you both?
Well, I'm well, I think. Saz?
Yeah, always had a nice weekend. We're moving into that spring summer vibe now. So I was trying to think when I met you, Ben, because I think it was the same time of year, but some years ago, possibly even 4 or 5 years ago from now.
Was it during my time at the now defunct Britishvolt? I can't
It
remember.
was
Did we first
indeed.
meet at one of the fully charged events, maybe?
No, we crossed paths, and I was working at Foot Anstey, the legal firm, soon to go to what was Elmtronics. And look how fast everything moves. So all of those things, Elmtronics isn't Elmtronics anymore. It got acquired by MER, M-E-R, the company. And now Britishvolt is no more, but more on that later, I'm sure. We've very much hijacked Paul's questions, but I just wanted to say I can't believe how long it's been.
It's nice to chat, isn't it, and reminisce on the journey so far. But Ben, I think importantly, as before we get kicked off too much into various bits and pieces, tell us, I mean, whistle stop us to the day and tell us a little bit about Bold Voodoo, because it is Bold Voodoo, isn't it? I think you were Bald Voodoo for a short period, but
I remain bald, but the company is now bold. Now, the rationale for that is that, and it does touch on the initial conversation around Britishvolt, when that sadly went into administration in January last year. Even though I was the only person with communications in my title, I also didn't know that the company was going to go into liquidation at that point. So I think it was January. I remember the call, and then we got off the call, and then I no longer had a job. So I knew that the work I'd been doing at Britishvolt, being a startup, so I'd come from 13 years. I won't go into my whole career, but before that, I'd spent 13 years at a huge business, $1 billion business called Standard and Poor's. And I got thrown into Britishvolt, which was totally different dynamic to working at a corporation. And when you're at a startup that's growing at that pace, you're kind of given free rein to run something as you wish to run it, as long as it's successful and within parameters. So I always ran the communications desk, and you were talking about pioneers, collaborators. So I'm skipping the pioneers bit and going straight to collaborators, because I'm not sure I'm a pioneer. I'm just someone that likes to talk and work with other people. I don't know how pioneering that is. I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there like me. So anyway, it gave me an opportunity to formulate a desk where I collaborated with the entire UK battery industry. Britishvolt, when I stepped in, it only had social values. So I worked with the entire ecosystem and tried my hardest to put everyone on the global battery map from the UK. So when I went into liquidation, I'd already created a lot of opportunities with different people where I'd kind of been running a communications business. So I thought, well, I've kind of done it with Britishvolt. Why can't I do it on my own? Britishvolt, I wrote a thought piece afterwards. I took it from from poster child to ugly duckling. And it was a beautiful journey. And for 1 year, it was 24/7, but there was a lot of fun, excitement. We were in all of the papers. I was really, coming from the media and business development and relationship management. This was my first real rodeo as an out and out communications expert or leader.
Wow.
And it was a baptism of fire. So yeah, I was known affectionately at Britishvolt as the BOLD magician. So BOLD Voodoo was the genesis of the BOLD magician. I then realised if you abbreviate BOLD Voodoo, you once again get BV, which is Britishvolt. So the kind of legacy that wasn't anyway. So as the companies look, BOLD Voodoo got me a lot of clients, partners. I don't really like to call people clients. I work on a partnership basis. I only work with people that I like and respect and are doing the right thing. But BOLD Voodoo, everyone found it really entertaining, and it does reflect some of my personality. But I also found it quite difficult. Say I was at an event, and you go to ask a question. Hi, I'm Ben Kilbey, founder of BOLD Voodoo. It didn't sit that well with me. Anyway, the partnership grew. The partners I work with grew. I'm now working with an amazing guy, John Gardner, who used to be head of BOLD, head of comms at BOLD Britain. He's come out of retirement to work with me. I've got all these people who aren't BOLD, and so I thought, well, what can I do? I don't want to completely change the brand because I quite like the way it's branded. People like that. I've got a really nice deck. So I thought, well, recycling sustainability. If I change one letter to BOLD, you're left with BOLD Voodoo. And also, I can tell any startups that I work with, you do not have to lose your whole identity, even with like a small rebrand. I just took the A, turned it into an O, and made it the recycling symbol. So that's how we got to BOLD Voodoo.
Well, and so I mean, it's super interesting, and I know we're going to get into in a minute the whole kind of nuts and bolts of what seems to be your formative years in your now career. But what is the mission of BOLD? I've got to get this right. BOLD Voodoo.
I guess the mission is to not completely rethink communications, but to look how you can have a suite of partners. So when we joined the call, you asked me what was on the whiteboard behind me, which I've now moved away from. It's a matrix of who I'm working with at the moment and how they all fit together. So I'm working with Octopus Electric Vehicles. I'm working with a venture capital company called Volta Energy Technologies, which was founded by Jeff Chamberlain, who was one of the senior guys at Argonne Labs. He was also the main character in a book by a journalist friend of mine, Steve Levine, which I only found out the other day before I got off on a tangent. So I talked to Steve Levine and I said, I'm now working with Volta. And he went, my book Powerhouse? And I was like, yeah, it's great. It's all about the looming war between China and America and batteries. He said, you know the guy you're working with now. He's the main character in my book. And I was like, that's mad. So I've gone through all these different, and now I'm actually one of my partners is also the lead character in one of my friends' books. GDI are silicone anodes, so they're looking to bring fast charging to the masses. Circular traceability, ally repurposing, tertiary mining, SC Insights research, and it's how you make all of these businesses work together. So I've got a kind of core base of really senior, influential journalists who find most of that interesting. So I can really help all of them at once. Some people say, it's not just me anymore. Some people say you've got a lot of partners for one person. But actually, the way I formulated the business, he said, what's my mission? It's to ensure that we have a successful energy transition. Before the call, Sara, it's because there's no H in it. I say accidentally. Sara was saying about my family. I'm doing all of this for not only my kids, all of our kids, and for a better future. So I try to really not have any silos in my partnerships, and for all of us to collaborate and work together and really get that sustainability messaging out to the masses.
Fantastic. And I know, listen, I want to pass over to Saz now because I know that she has got some really interesting stuff, but I love the mission, I love the vision, and I love that bringing together customers that you can work together for all at once. Brilliant.
Yeah, and the ambition, Ben. Ever since I've met you, it's evident you have just such sky-high ability to sort of aim for something and just go after it. I mean, For those that don't know Ben, or didn't, from the Britishvolt days, that was a huge lumbering beast of a comms project, right? And I certainly hadn't heard hardly anything about it until Ben's intervention. So huge kudos for that. But the project itself was huge, and there was a lot of sort of sadness and loss around the fact that it didn't go ahead. Of course, now we know from our EV Cafe news sessions that things are going well on that site. There's other things going to happen there, and those jobs, 8,000 supply chain jobs that were due to go for it. As a communicator and a pioneer and an innovator as you are, the challenge you've got is balance between telling the truth about what's actually happening versus protecting your clients or protecting the message or the mission, as we're all here to do. How on earth do you reconcile that when you hear that terrible news and you know it's going to be a big blow versus all those papers that are going to be hounding you from the second it drops?
You can't stop being honest just because you're faced with a crisis. You have to continue to be. I think one of my USPs is that I bring the media along on the journey with me. Now at Britishvolt, there were some people within that who'd come from other corporations who were a little nervous of my approach. But you know, a friend of mine, for instance, all of these will remain nameless, which you're saying about guarding the truth, guarding the source by telling the truth. I guess you learn that from being a journalist for many years. But he was given a story by somebody, and then something else broke a few weeks later, and he requested some intel around that, and he didn't get it, and he felt a little bit jarred. Well, so you give the stories you want to give, but you don't. So it's all about what should have, I think, been done was take them backstage and say, this is what we can give you. We can confirm. We won't, you know, but we can't say, so you know it's coming from us. You can use it as a trusted source. And I think you have to, it doesn't matter what you're faced with. I think journalists, I say this to all of my friends in the media, from coming from the media, I'm also the PR for the media, because journalists do a great job. I don't work with journalists that don't do great jobs. And I've learned along my journey that not everyone can be trusted, but most people are just doing their job. So one of the issues I had at Britishvolt, if we take that prime example, is that I was slowly not getting as much information as I had been getting previously. And I always said at the very beginning of the Britishvolt journey, and I think I said it when I was on stage trying to deliver my Trend is Your Friend as a presentation, which I don't know if you noticed, but I did do that on purpose, was as many slides as I could to try and also subtly, because in the Trend is Your Friend, which we'll get to later, I like to sprinkle breadcrumbs. That was to try and tell people, don't ever try and give a presentation with 30 slides, even if you're trying to bring I didn't say it out, but I'm sure people could have seen how difficult it was trying to deliver that many slides in under 10 minutes. But I digress. And I go off on a tangent, which is what I tell people not to do. Yes. So when you look, that was it. So the very first thing I said, and it's not something I want to do, and actually this all links really nicely together. Now I'll draw it back. If you haven't got an internal communicator who's really good at their job, especially at a company like Britishvolt, which is so high paced, and you lose touch with your people are your most important asset. They are the first people you need to communicate with. And that is actually how the Trend is Your Friend was born. So I was employee number 20 at Britishvolt. We didn't have anyone internally, and we still didn't really have anyone internally towards the end of the crisis stuff. HR ended up doing it a little bit. And one of the HR representatives there did a really good job. But the Trend is Your Friend was born out of trying to deliver an information and keeping the people of Britishvolt on the journey with us. And I say, like, you might be able to give a certain amount of information to a journalist because you've signed an NDA, or there's a big deal on the horizon you don't want to get ruined, or whatever else. Your investors, your government, your investors, or your staff. All of it needs to be the same message. Just depends how much of that message you give away. There needs to be that consistency running throughout all of your communications. And actually, when I first got into this, the head of comms at Glencore the way they've structured it, whatever you think of Glencore, I think it's an amazing business, but that's my humble opinion. They have IR and media are sit next to each other, so you have that consistency of messaging, and I think you need that not just IR media, but also internal and all of the and marketing. This is what happens in big businesses. People get siloed, and that's when communications really break down. So I've gone off and I've delved a bit deeper than your question asked me, but there's a fine balancing act between what you can and can't tell people, but always be as truthful as you can be.
Within
And
those
to the point,
parameters,
yeah,
that's really
and
interesting.
almost say to someone, I can tell you this, I cannot tell you that. Maybe look over there. That's all I can tell
Little
you.
breadcrumbs. I see what you're saying. Well, yes, and I think credit to you to getting that balance right. Internal stakeholder engagement versus external stakeholder engagement is a delicate balance as well. And something I've noticed in our industry is the rise of figureheads, the rise of voices that are trusted, and one of those is Quentin Wilson. He's been a long-term, self-confessed petrol head, and since has worked with you, as I know, as a friend first, I'm sure, and now colleague, peer second. And that's been all about following somebody's journey. And like him or loathe him, I actually think he's a great chap. He's flipped from petrol through to EV, and he's passionate about the people's price point with regards to his mission to reduce VAT for those who have to public charge all the time, and that is super commendable. And it must be hard working with clients, not Quentin specifically, but when a client is so passionate about the subject matter and it's your role to help them find those balance of truths versus reality, those breadcrumbs only go so far. So tell us about Trend is Your Friend.
Trend is Your Friend is my fortnightly newsletter, which goes out to global media and investors and government. As it was born as so I used to S&P. I used to write a lot of newsletters to traders and bankers, and I realised when I went to Britishvolt that I could reverse that, and the bankers and the traders and my sources were the media, and I was telling them a story, and I could take what I'd given internally and deliver it externally to the media, and try and bring them on it. Realistically, if you've got a battery startup that only has social values, there's only so far you can take that narrative until you get your next kind of activation or next bit of progress. So the Trend is Your Friend, yeah, it's well read. It tries to be educational and informative. I try to channel my inner Hogarth. I think one of your things you said at the beginning, or you sent me a list of questions to look at and think about, but one of them was like, what's a fun fact? And I was thinking about, what's a fun fact about me? And I was born on the same day as William Shakespeare. So that is why I'm such a great communicator and pioneer. That's the reason why. So yeah, the Trend is Your Friend. I try to take the messaging and include everyone that I know within my network, including all of my partners, and really bring to life not just one isolated story, but the whole kind of big picture. And to go back to Quentin, he's an absolute joy to work with. He has really leveled me up in terms of public speaking, ensuring that I don't mumble too much. Because even if you're a good communicator, you still have your own human nuances. And one of mine was that when I occasionally start to speak, I speak too quickly and then I mumble. So I've had to really learn how to, and I don't know if I've mumbled at all here, but just to go backstage for a minute, these are little things that he's really taught me how to articulate myself better, and to have someone that's got that level of experience and passion has been a real amazing part of my journey and really helped me level up as a professional and personally.
And Grace, he's a lovely, graceful person. And I took this wonderful photo of you and Alec and him together before any of the BOLD Voodoo stuff even happened at one of the fully charged shows. But yeah, sorry, interrupted you, Paul. I just wanted to say that compliment.
No, I think it's funny because I got to work with Quentin on some stuff that I was doing with a charging company that he was kind enough to support us with. And it was a real experience, because he was the consummate professional, able to articulate really clearly. And I'm a bit like you, Ben. From time to time, I fall over my words. I get passionate or excited, and and then I get it wrong. And when you get it wrong, you say, "Oh, start again." So he was very patient with me, because he was all the one take wonders, and I was not. But it makes me think, though, Ben, in particular, you've got somebody like Quentin in your life. That there's been no doubt a lot of other people that have been through your life, and I'm interested to know who really stands out as either a mentor in particular or a real big influence in your life. Not
So,
you, Saz. Sorry to break your heart.
obviously, it's both of you, and we'll just leave it there. No, it's so
Whatever.
I turned 44 on Shakespeare's birthday very recently, the 23rd of April. And I guess mentor wise, there's different mentors at different stages.
Mm.
But I think, like, if I look immediately, who's really helped shape me, not only through the trauma of Britishvolt, but also the next. Everyone wants to talk about Britishvolt, and I've got a lot has happened in 1 year. I've got 8 partners. Things are going great. But how did I get there? I got there by being mentored. Now, I used to be a mentor when I was at SMP, and I'd mentor the postgrads coming in. And what I realized was that it's so important to have good mentors in your life. So I will get to one gentleman in particular. There's two. So Quentin is one without a doubt. But in terms of my personal communications, professionalism, not just speaking publicly, which Quentin has helped me massively with, but someone that's really helped me understand the nuts and bolts and really trained me by osmosis on crisis comms. It had to be John Gardner. Now, I referenced him earlier on. He's just, I was speaking to somebody else about him and they used the word incomparable. Now,
Mm.
there's not many people in the world, or at least on my journey, and I've met a lot of people for just enjoying people's company, but also my job was a journalist, then a relationship manager, then a business developer. I've traveled the world meeting lots and lots and lots and lots of people. Very few, if any, have I heard someone else compare the person who I thought about this in my own mind, but hear them articulate it and bring it to life. It was he's right. John Gardner he'd be punching me in the arm at the moment. Stop it. But it's incomparable. The journey he's taken me on and helped me become, and helped me become who I am now. He's just an absolute. And every senior journalist that I know that knows him will say, he's the best in the business. And so to know
Mm.
that I must be that I don't need to be told. I'm one of these people. I'd rather you tell me what I'm doing wrong than I'm doing right. I won't learn too
Yeah.
much. You don't learn much in the good times. You get complacent. So that's why I learned so much from Britishvolt, right? There was a real rough year, and
Mm.
John was on that journey
Mm.
with me and really
Mm.
helped mold me and build me and tutor and mentor me into the person I am now. Without John Gardner and without Quentin, and many other people, but the ones that are very, very close to me,
Sure.
I probably wouldn't be in the position I'm in at the moment.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it, when we begin to think about all those key people in our lives, and we've got lots of them, right? But there are some people that stand out for very good reasons, and have been there just to kind of tip us over into that next stage of our lives. Really, really interesting to hear you use that word trauma for the time or some of the time at Britishvolt, because of course it wasn't all trauma, I know, and also the importance of mentors and that transition. Talk to us a little bit about keeping your mind healthy. We're in Mental Health Awareness Week. As we record this, it won't be released, of course, in Mental Health Awareness Week, but this week is Mental Health Awareness. And I know that actually these times in our work lives can be very difficult, especially without good people around us. Talk to us a little bit about how important mental health is to you, but also to those difficult times and how you can kind of come through that.
Yes, mental health is something that's pretty close to my heart. I struggle. Um, I suffer from a mental health illness, addiction. It doesn't matter what the addiction is. It can play itself out in becoming resentful under pressure. So people, when you actually strip back the disease of addiction, it's not necessarily about a drink or substance that is the problem. If you strip it all the way back to why have you got the problem? It doesn't really have to be anything. It can be that you do suffer with the mental health issue of addiction. But actually, like little things that I can do and I can see it can make me, no one else would see it, I don't think. But the way I can internalize things and obsess and compulse. And if I don't keep myself in check and work my own program, fundamentally, I may not relapse in terms of drink, but I may relapse in another way and become quite negative internally, which then will reflect externally. And I'm a big advocate of the universe giving back. I've become more and more spiritual. And I think that happens to a lot of people as you progress through life. You do. You realize that you're not immortal. And, the more you give, the more you get back. You need to unpack stuff. Don't carry it around. And if you're struggling at work, let's bring it back from personal to professional. If you're struggling in your workplace, you need to have the ability to unpack that and have people to talk to and have people within businesses. And that is something going back to Britishvolt, which is never mentioned anymore, but it was putting in place these types of, maybe too soon, because you need cash flow for these types of things. You need cash flow, sadly, to do the right thing. But we had mental health representatives who, because it was a stressful environment, and it really was about doing the right thing for its people. So listen, look after your mental health. If you're feeling stresses and strains, reach out and talk to someone. If you're suffering with things you don't think you can talk to, reach out to me. There's not much that people cannot speak to me about that I wouldn't understand. I would imagine there's probably many things I wouldn't understand, but at least know there's always someone there to help you. Mental health is imperative. We all look at physical health, and they do go hand in hand, in my opinion. If you keep yourself physically well, and the gut brain axis, there's lots to get into. That's kind of my take on mental health.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's incredible honesty. I know from my own experience the pain and difficulty of addiction in different ways, and that addictive nature that can manifest itself in a myriad of ways, and not least just becoming negative or kind of going down a blind alley of stupid stuff that I have managed to replicate across my life for many years. I'm very very in awe of your ability to kind of work with that, but also that openness and honesty. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I think a lot of other people will too, knowing that actually life isn't plain sailing and life isn't, what we tell the world it is, and that truth and honesty piece is critical, and you've done that amazingly well.
Thank you. I would just say, because before we move on to the next thing, one of my addictions is work. And I won't, I spend a lot of time talking to people, which I don't really distinguish as being work. And that could be 24/7 talking to people. And it was when my wife said, you do realize you're always working and you're not present. And that's when I was like, see, addiction manifests itself in many different ways. And it manifested itself in me not even realizing the distinction between, I'm just talking to people. Yeah, but they're not your immediate family. Yeah, there's a differentiation. Just because everyone's your friend, Ben, so you just be very conscious of work can be an addiction as well.
You need to stop talking, because if Caroline hears this, she'll go, "You're busted." You're absolutely. I'm talking to people all of the time.
So yeah, it's just about just being the best version of yourself that you can be, which you cannot be at all times. So do not apply that pressure to yourself, because we're only human. But it's about working through and being connected to people that can help you on your journey as well. Creating that support network around you, work, play, family, wherever it is, just having the right people around you for you. Because there are many people, and there's a terrible part of the human condition is that we will surround ourselves with many people, and then we will focus not on the people that are kind to us, but the people that are not kind to us, which is fundamentally means we are malfunctioning. Because why? I think there's a beautiful the horse, the fox, the mole, the boy, maybe not in that order.
Yeah.
And the little boy says to the mole, he says to the boy, the mole says to the boy that sat looking, and I was sat with my kids watching this, and he says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And he says, "I want to be kind." And I looked at my kids, and I was like, "Just do that. Don't worry about the rest of it. Help other people." So that's what it's about. It's about getting out. I would say the fundamental essence, if I boil it down, is to getting out of self and helping other people. Work with people, be kind, and everything will be all right.
This is why people love being around you, Ben. If anybody's had the opportunity or pleasure to do that, you do exude this energy, definitely. And going back to the point of fun, you're quite right. Life's a balance. It's good to have some fun. And I saw a wonderful quote yesterday, which I did so enjoy, that said, "I don't have a philosophy, but I do have a camera." And it made me realize that I just love capturing beautiful things, beautiful content, and sharing wonderful wispy bits of grass or the sun setting or a horse running past, whatever. That makes me feel happy. That makes me as happy as anything else I could tell you, that lovely, wonderful feeling inside. And I think we're a little out of touch of what makes us happy. There's a long list of stuff that makes me happy. I'm pretty much happy most of the time. But I wanted to know about you. What makes you happy? I know that you're a family man. I know you're undeniably devoted to your family, but I'm talking about you personally. When do you get that lovely feeling inside?
When I'm helping other people, and then selfishly, if I'm doing exercise.
Yeah.
We were out of our house for around a year while some refurbishments were being done, and our youngest daughter, Maya, is now 5. The eldest is 10, coming up to 11 plus. Amazing. They're all amazing. And then Flo's in the middle, Florence. And we talk about bikes, and I finally got the bikes out, and I pumped up the tyres last night on my bike, which I use for my triathlon, which is now like 5 years ago. Probably when I was in the peak of my health, mentally and physically. Not saying that I'm not still there, but definitely physically. Like I said, there's that synergy. But I got the bike out and I went for a ride, and I was just smiling from ear to ear. I'm very fortunate we live near the seafront, so I rode down the seafront from Chalkwell to Southend, or around halfway, not all the way to Southend, and it was just the air was warm. I was smiling. There was people out, and just being on a bike makes me feel like a kid again. So that, listening to music, just I think normal, very normal, fundamental, joyous things like nice food, riding my bike, being with my family. Yeah.
Simple as I was saying, that it feels there is something. I love just walking into the sea, and just I can stand there up to my knees, and just kind of like look out and just breathe in with the sea there. And then if you're lucky enough to have an empty beach, that's particularly exciting as well. You just got the beach to yourself, or you know um but simple is so underrated, because we try and do complex, all inclusive, go up and do this, that, or the other, but actually, just strip it all back, and that's where it's is best for me. But I mean, tell us, Ben, you've done a lot in your life. You've overcome some stuff, by the sounds of it. We won't go there today because I just don't think we have time. Sadly, I will. I will. I'm not. I would love to, but what are you most proud of having achieved in your life?
Uh, so my dad's a very successful businessman, um, and we were talking about defining success, and you know, in a year, I've created a business which is successful. I'm not sure if I still believe it's happened, but it's happened, and everything that I've visualized has come about because of all the previous things I've mentioned on here. My experiences, my toolkit, my spirituality, my ambition, my drive, my ability to collaborate. But great, I created a great business. I'm in touch with myself. I've got great people around me. I understand mental health. I understand physical health. I understand, many different things now. I've traveled the world, blah, blah, blah. But talking to my dad, successful businessman, define success. He said, look at your 3 children, look at your wife, look at what you've, together you and your wife have created this beautiful family. So I think without doubt, that is my wife and our daughters, Eva, Florence and Maya, and our little dog Woody, who's a bit challenging. But we love him. We have our moments. He's a schnauzer, so he's got
Oh, nice.
little dog syndrome. But he's I'd say that is probably my most successful. Will always be my most successful attribute. I'd like to see what else I can be successful at. However, the rest of it doesn't matter when I look at the actual success that I have within my family unit, our family unit.
Ben, I'm lucky enough to have met that wonderful family unit. We shared a tube stop, or no, it was a DLR stop or two, and they are truly beautiful. And you have every reason to be very, very proud. Such a great foundation, Saz?
Absolutely. I wish I did. I see so many people taking their children in our industry to our industry events because, as you say, the whole point of electrification isn't just about us and our earnings and our careers. It's about really genuinely putting yourself and your beliefs out there to make sure that progress is made as quickly as possible for that future generation. That's often the number one sort of cited reason that people are in this industry. And the other one is legacy, of course, is, when your kids ask you what they think is successful in their eyes versus what you think is successful in yours. I wonder what they'll be and what they'll do and what they'll become. Do you talk to your children about future and what's valid?
Yeah, no, we're a very engaged household, and like I said, we haven't been in the house for a while. We came back and we've been sorting stuff out, and I noticed that on a lot of their artwork, it's very environmental focused. And again, through my network and people that I've been fortunate enough to meet, I'll go back to something else. You asked me a question about success. There's 2 things I would love to do that I would want to be successful, which I'll come back to in a second. But yeah, so Sasha Dench, the human swan, unfortunately she had a very traumatic paramotor accident. She's now coming back to life. By that I mean she's coming fully back online, having her legs rebuilt, and she's befriended Joanna Lumley. They're creating this amazing. Anyway, that's now. But before the accident, I talked to Sasha on the phone, and we came about with this. Batteries will help save the world. And the kids used to, if Sasha was on the phone on loudspeaker, they were like, "Hey, Sasha, you miss fun. What will batteries do, kids? Save the world." So we are very engaged, switched on around everything that I do and everything that they do. And I am trying my hardest to do this for them. And 2 of the things I'd like to have massive success with, there are the Faraday Institute battery boxes by Curiosity Box, a lady called Renee Watson. And when I was at Britishvolt, I really wanted to get those into every school in the country. So I'm now working with various partners trying to get, so I see it as amazing marketing, branding, legacy. If you get these battery boxes into schools with your branding on, and get batteries into the curriculum and renewables, suddenly you've changed the curriculum to be much more tactile and hands-on as it should be, and you've also made a fundamental difference. So there's that, and also for our 3 daughters, Eva, Florence, and Maya, and Sarah knows about this. I work tirelessly to raise the female voice in the media. So I've created a very loosely formed working group, Women of the Energy Transition, which could do with a rebrand itself. But this came out of Britishvolt, and it's all about getting more female voices into the media. So if I could get battery boxes and more female voices in, I'm so fortunate to work with Fiona Howarth at Octopus EV, who is an absolute superstar. And she's got an amazing network of women that she's introducing me to more and more. Because the one thing, when you asked about mentors, they were both men that I mentioned. And I was thinking that's really quite, but in many ways, Fiona is one of my mentors, more recent one. So, but yeah, I think for success, for those 2 things, if I can make them really happen, and they don't need to have me associated with them. In fact, they're the ones that will give you the most pleasure, the ones that no one even needs to know it was you. Although I just told the world, obviously it was me. Yes. No. If we can all collaborate and work together to get these battery boxes into every school in the UK and to get more female voices in the media,
very commendable.
That would be success to me.
Do you know what? People get very fixated on this mentor thing being the absolute pinnacle of one's life, having a mentor. But I was reading just recently that you actually do need an equal balance. So the mentor is no higher in your life than the peer who supports you at work. Is also no higher in your life than the confidant who you can tell absolutely anything to. Nor is it the person who you feel mildly competitive with that you wouldn't necessarily ever tell was your mentor, but they still drive you forward. So it's a new way of thinking about people in industry. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't matter who you are. It's completely embracing equity. If they bring you value and they happen to be male or female or whatever they identify as, that is fine by me, as long as they're bringing value and that they know that symbiotically with you too. What I wanted to know though is we're nearly halfway through the year. We're nearly halfway through the year already. This blows my mind completely. And congrats on your first year's success as well. I'm very curious, what's on your horizon? What does the rest of your year and next year look like as we race towards 2030?
World domination. No.
Global domination.
No. So the first year was really about creating this business that unites the investors from various businesses. So you create almost like a hands-off hedge fund, VC partnership in the background, and then you've got your media and your government and anyway. So that's phase one, BOLD Voodoo, from bold to bold. So the next year is all about developing every business that I work with to be the best that they can be and to ensure their success. Business development now is much more organic. I'm not having to constantly chase, build. It's built, things will change, people's situations will change, people will move away, At the moment, that core set of partners need my undevoted attention, support, and ability to get the best out of them. In fact, someone said to me, again, they'll remain nameless, they said, "You're doing a great job and you clearly love it." We've seen other agencies. I don't like to be an agency. I call myself communications collaborative, a proper partnership where we all help one another. Someone said, as agencies grow, the person that was brought in to do the job suddenly becomes a junior without the passion, so in some ways, do I need to keep growing, or do I just need to keep being me and true to myself and realize that global domination isn't really what I need? There's way bigger agencies out there than me. I can either compete with them and lose my identity, not to say they've lost theirs, because they are what they are, or I can say, well, this is the era I play in. This is what I want to own. And do I just remain true to myself? And I think that's what I want to do. I want to keep just delivering. I always say to partners, if I'm not adding value to you, please tell me. And we can either work out how I add the value again, or work out if I'm the wrong partner for you at this given time. Some people may outgrow me. Some people I may outgrow. Some people, who knows? But it comes back to that. Just be honest with yourselves and your partners, and you grow together, win together. I think what I'd like to do is really influence government more to do the right thing, the population more, work with my media partners when there's things that I don't agree with, to challenge them, to see where they get their sourcing from, and then perhaps get rebuttals or not even a rebuttal, just help educate if I think something's not being taught properly. Just be an aid and an ally to society, and really get that sustainability messaging out there and make a change. I know there's probably people listening go, "Oh my God, what is he talking? He's talking nonsense. He doesn't mean any of this. This is a communications professional just talking his book." I don't really have a book to talk. I work with good people. If I don't work with good people and this doesn't work, I'll go and get a real job. My wife's like, "You've got a real job." I'll go and work for a company. If this ends up being something I don't want it to be, I'll go back into corporate life. I can do that. But at the moment, what I'm building is something that works for everyone and hopefully makes a difference.
Do you know what, Ben? As we got to come into an end, but there's so much in what you've just said that is so grounding. I think the power of people is the thing that stands out to me in all that you talked about today. But I also heard in that last bit that there are some challenges as you look down the road around sustainability, around this transition. There are some challenges, and just for a second, I want to give you a magic wand and ask you to kind of change something, one thing that will make a difference from your perspective on how this transition happens and how we get the solutions that we all wish for.
I'd like people to understand that greed is not good, and that do not be fearful of change. The change I remember when I was at SMP and something happened, and I was really unhappy with it, and I approached. I'm quite forthcoming with my opinions. I've definitely got better at being less. I think Dan Caesar describes me as very Dutch, but I've tried to moderate that a little bit, although it's part of my character, right? But I said, I don't agree with this. This is, and they just looked at me and said, the only true constant is change, and which made me even angrier. I was like, what type of answer is that? But now, 10 years forward, I'm like, no, that's right. We're changing. We're transitioning to future economies, future technologies. Wild weather is getting worse. We need to fundamentally make a difference. Climate change is real. I was with someone recently, and it was colder, seasonally colder. It might have been 2 weeks ago, and they looked at me and they said, "Oh, does this mean global warming's a hoax?" And I said, "No, but they didn't mean it. They wanted to actually learn. But so the way we brand it, the way we tell the story, we all have a role to play. We all have a responsibility to help that person who didn't understand because they've not been educated on, this is what I mean. Getting those battery boxes into schools will play a fundamental part in making sure those types of conversations don't happen, and also hopefully play a fundamental part in enabling a future that is sustainable. So yeah, if we can just eradicate a bit of greed and a bit of fear and just get a bit honest, that would be kind of my magic wand. If I had that little genie's lamp to rub, they're the 3 wishes, and a lovely mop of hair.
Hair's overrated.
It's ruined my branding as well now. I can't even go to Turkey.
It only slows you down. You don't need to be faffing with that. It's so lovely to have the opportunity to spend this time with you, Ben, and to offer my final thoughts, which are all around a reflection back on what you've told us about the importance of balance, about the importance of having a mission and the ambition to get yourself there, but remaining centered and focused on what matters to you, and you being all that you can be within your own parameters and your own limits and your own abilities to inspire people around you. And the rest will follow. It just naturally will. You'll manifest it and it will come with good, old, solid, hard work and collaboration, which we know a lot about on the EV Cafe. So thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
It has been our pleasure, Ben. Honestly, there's so much. First of all, big hats off to you for your openness and your honesty, the beauty of your journey you shared a little bit of today, and that's really great. I'm struck by how important family are to you, and Eva, Florence, and Mia. Just the preciousness and the work for them, and obviously your good lady wife, whose name escapes me. I've forgotten what her name was.
Natalie, and it's not Mia. It's Maya.
Natalie.
It's Maya.
Oh, Maya. I'm sorry.
It's all right. A lot of people do that. No, it's Maya. It says Natalie, Eva, Maya. Florence, and Maya.
There you go. The 4 lovely ladies of your life. That's fabulous. And all the other wonderful people in your life, and the power that they bring, the focus of the future for the Faraday battery box, and we'll get a link into the comments for this, and so that people can go off and find out about that, because I think it's really important, particularly kids and all of that sort of stuff. And we all know the wonderful joy of Fiona. She's done a podcast with us, and she is an absolute dream. And Caroline goes to some of the Earthset days that have been
amazing.
Part of the,
yeah, she's an inspiration. She really, truly is. Fiona, I will end this. I know I'm interrupting you, but I know we're wrapping it up. So Fiona, right at the end, right at the beginning, not at the end. well, it was the end. Sorry, there was an end there. I wondered where I got it. So it was right at the end of Britishvolt and right at the beginning of BOLD Voodoo. Fiona was if not the first person who saw what I was doing and said, "Would you like some support? We could do some help. Could you help get some positive messaging out there?" And that's when I started to use that collaborative approach and then subtly create business development. But it was all down to Fiona backing me and seeding me and saying,
Lovely.
"Go, yeah." So actually, Fiona, and I do tell her this a lot, is the reason I am where I am now. Because business won't grow without the right supporters.
Totally true. Totally true. And I can reflect on somebody that did exactly that for me as I stepped out. So we've got those people that are investors in us, just by their very nature. So, and I sense that you're exactly that kind of person as well. You want to sow into these businesses that you're supporting, but into the wider industry as well. And Ben, I for one, I'm glad that we share the journey together. And look forward to many more collaborations in the future. And maybe there's another conversation in this somewhere. There's a lot to pick at, isn't there? Well, everybody, I know that you'll have got to the end of this and listened and enjoyed the conversation between Saz, Ben, and myself. What a joy to spend some time with Ben. And do check out all the other podcasts from Fiona. There is a podcast from Fiona. We haven't got Quentin on yet. Ben, over to you on that one. We'll get Ben Quentin to come and chat to us as well, because there's so many wonderful people with so much to offer, and you'll have learned something from today, and I'm sure you'll learn something from all of the other podcasts as well. Thanks ever so much for listening, everybody, and until next time. Thanks for listening. Gosh, this is a really bumper. See that rambling you talked about. Can you just give me some help as well?
Stop rambling.
People have got to go.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day, everybody. Bye.